As a newly elected official back 17 years ago, I was motivated to get involved with the League because I wanted to be the best elected official I could be for the residents that elected me. So attending League conference every year, attending annual events that the League puts on has helped me to grow and be the best elected official I can be in serving the people that I represent.
Well, we're also busy in our home communities and our interactions on a daily basis, but there's so much that we can learn from each other all across the entire state. That's been the real value with working with the League, is hearing about certain situations that we're anticipating facing coming forward in our city. And it's been invaluable in terms of our growth as a community.
My primary motivation for becoming involved in League activities is that sometime approximately 10 to 15 years ago, we began to have all of these conversations about regionalism and globalism and how we needed to expand our horizons in this changing economic and cultural environment in the world that we live in.
Well, when you're first elected, you very quickly realize that your community has common interest with other communities and that you need a voice in the legislature. So what's the vehicle for that? The League of Municipalities. It brings people together to discuss issues and share information, and then also to have representation in Raleigh.
There is strength in numbers. There is strength in numbers. There's also strength in varying viewpoints. It's important that we realize we are part of a larger whole and that a team effort creates success. The only thing that you can do by yourself is fail.
I became involved with the League activities as an opportunity to network and work with other elected officials across the state in really promoting and being an advocate for cities and towns in North Carolina, because I'm a firm believer that stronger cities and stronger towns make for a stronger North Carolina.
I joined the League because I really see that the success of our state depends largely on the success of our cities. And I really believe that our state is a place for everyone, and that diversity that's provided to all of our citizens of North Carolina is born out of the diversity of our cities. And that diversity comes from cities having local authorities that allow us to accomplish what our citizens want.
I think when we work together as municipalities, we get more done. And that's what I enjoy doing.
What motivated me to become involved with League activities was that I felt the city of Winston-Salem needed a strong voice and presence at the state level when it came to policies and laws that were being created at the legislature. We also needed someone that was willing to come back and be able to have a conversation to engage my other peers about what I've learned from my League engagement, as well as my engagement with the legislature. I think it's one of the best life experiences I've done, and I hope to be on this board for a while.
Well, when I was serving my community as mayor, I was introduced to the League, of course. I'd never been in municipal politics or government before being elected as mayor, and I wanted to learn as much about not only my community, but also what was available in the way of advocation and so forth with the legislature. And I learned that the League was the place for that to be.
I wanted to be a part of the change that would make the League more effective when they met with legislators. And so I've concentrated my time in the League and on the board in doing just that, reminding legislators that cities drive the state's economy and that we have to take care of cities to keep the state strong, as it has become more and more strong over the past 5 years.
The thing that I really enjoyed was getting to know people from across the state. And so when the opportunity came to serve an unexpired term on the board, I jumped at it. And I have made many wonderful friends. I've learned that we all have common problems, but that everybody in the League is willing to work with you and help you solve those problems.
Well, the League of Municipalities is such a tremendous resource for municipalities in all of North Carolina. I know that I have personally used them early in my career and went to a number of meetings and thought that it was a group that really is important for municipalities, and also a group that I wanted to be a part of when I had a chance to give back as well.
I saw the work that the LACs were doing, and I thought, let me go to the step further and go to see what I can do about being on the board, to see and to be a part of the connectedness of cities and towns, thus meaning the dependence between the two, the interdependence, and the individuality that each of those might have.
Really wanted to be part of one voice and to be able to come together from an advocacy standpoint and be able to lobby, share ideas, whatever it might be, and I think those really fit well together.
Because I thought the League was an important advocate for cities and an important advocate for municipalities. It was something that was important for our city. And so I wanted to be a part of that, because I appreciated the importance of the advocacy that the League does for cities.
It's the government process. The League speaks with every city and town elected officials and listens to our issues and concerns and all our challenges. They present them to the state. So they are very concerned about the problems that we do have as an elected official. And they push these projects, they help us, they educate us, and it's a great organization.
For North Carolina to be strong, we must have strong cities and towns that work together with a collective voice. Whether we live down east, out west, or in one of our larger cities, the League gives us an opportunity to look beyond our own corporate limits at those issues that affect all municipalities.
Well, I'll have to say, as people have heard me say many times, Mayor Tom Gwynn, the former mayor of Elkin and the former president of the League of North Carolina League of Municipalities, impressed on me the importance of being involved with the League and what it meant to Elkin and what it meant to the surrounding towns, that we should know what's going on in Raleigh and how it will affect the citizens of Elkin.
I think the biggest challenge has been our revenue stream continues to decline while our needs for service continues to increase, and to find the balance of maintaining infrastructure with declining revenues while people's expectations continue to rise without impacting the local tax dollars is always a continued concern.
I think in my town, the rural areas in southeastern North Carolina, our biggest challenge is growth and trying to keep the property taxes at a reasonable rate and offer the services that our citizens demand. We have no growth, so property tax becomes an issue.
It's maintaining and enhancing our revenue to be able to provide all the services for our residents, and also making sure that everyone in the community is treated fairly.
I think as an elected official, one of the biggest challenges that we face is getting residents to be involved and engaged in their local government. It's very concerning when there's a small minority of folks that are consistently involved. So it's a challenge to get people engaged and empowered at the local level to make change in their government and in their community.
Dealing with multiple levels of government is always a challenge wherever you are. Creating those binds and those relationships on the state and the federal level and being effective with that is what we found is always something that you're constantly working on. And there's different goals on different levels of government, but we are at the tip of the spear. We're where the community, where they see what we do every single day. So that's always a challenge we work on.
My biggest challenge is that we can't do as much as we'd like to do for as many people as we like to do it, when we would like to do it, or when they would like us to do it for them. So that when we're moving future forward, we have those things and we're constantly changing and we're constantly evolving to the needs and desires of our community and of our citizenry, and we're doing it in an efficient and steadfast manner.
I think my biggest challenge is convincing folks on a direction. It is very difficult for a municipality to have a unified, focused, continual direction. And as a member of the Washington City Council, we have only had 2 members in the history of our council, myself included, serve on the League's board or be involved with the League. I realize that this is an organization that could do nothing but good for small communities. That we are not a small entity, we are a large group going forward for the betterment of everyone.
I think our biggest challenge is the mandates and the regulations coming down from the state. You know, they seem to be ever changing and ever growing, and I think that's a huge challenge for all of our cities in North Carolina.
Well, you know, our community is really moving very well economically, but our biggest challenge has been to get citizens involved in local government. There seems to be a lot of citizen apathy, and that, you know, is reflected in turnouts in the elections. So we've made a real effort, and I think it's something that's important to us, is to get our local citizens involved in government and realize that they can have an influence in decisions and the direction the community is making. We're working very hard on that, and I think that's very important.
Well, we have 3 big challenges in Charlotte. We have infrastructure challenges to accommodate the growth that we're seeing, comprehensive transportation plans, and also affordable housing.
My biggest challenge, or our biggest challenge as a community, are our demographics. We are located in one of the most economically challenged congressional districts in the United States. Therefore, it limits our ability to grow. Therefore, it limits our ability to successfully grow our tax base and keep the revenue stream fresh enough to continue to provide the quality of goods and services that we want to offer our citizens. That's the biggest challenge, keeping up.
The biggest challenge as a local elected official, again, is sustainable revenues to ensure the services to our citizens and our customers. That's the biggest challenge. We understand that the world is changing that we live in, but when legislation is created that enables us not to be able to do our job, then we feel somewhat handcuffed, and it causes us to become very frustrated. We work collaboratively together, all of us, but we are always on the defense of trying to find a solution to where do we get the added revenues when the state is taking any excess revenues that we had in the past.
The biggest challenge as a locally elected official is continuing to provide quality service with diminishing tax base to support it. Convincing the legislature that, you know, we have to find a way to pay for this, and without the infrastructure that we provide, the industry doesn't come. So we have to make sure that that's taken care of. So that's probably the biggest challenge, is keeping those ticket items, the big ticket items, paid for, so jobs continue to come, and more jobs came.
I would like to see us improve both our relationship with the legislature, and the legislature improve the relationship with municipalities. We're all in it together. We serve the same constituencies. And so I just really would like to see a little better working relationship, and let the legislature understand that the best is local rule.
Bottom line, it's money for infrastructure. And I say that we, where I live, have an abundance of water, that God-given resource of water. But then it's getting it from point A to point B, or to then point C if that is needed. I think all across America, one of the biggest issues that we, not just in North Carolina, is seeing, but across America, is the getting water from point A to point B. The rustiness, the pipes, the needing to be able to replace water and sewer, but I think it's infrastructure.
I think the biggest challenge is to keep
the state and federal from over-regulating and stepping in between a municipality and the citizens. You know, municipalities know better about what the community needs than anybody else, and they need to holding on to that autonomy is probably the most important thing they can do.
So I think our biggest challenge, and continues to be our biggest challenge, is revenue sources, revenue options. You know, with the changes that we have seen, really property tax being our only source right now, because everything grows out of revenue, and you really have to start there and go up. And so if you're looking at economic development, if you're looking at creation of jobs, if you're looking at infrastructure, whatever it is, it all stems out of those revenues.
I think when you're elected to office, you think you're going to snap your fingers and something's going to get done, and it doesn't work that way. A lot of the issues are more complex than you originally think. There are people with all kinds of views on the issues, both on your board and out in the community. And I think it's sometimes difficult to get things done that you would like to see done.
Trying to impress on the citizens sometimes the importance of what goes on in Raleigh. They don't realize that the House and the Senate are making rules and laws that change their daily life, and they need to know that. One of the toughest things is to make things that they feel are just terribly inequitable to their position, show it in a whole picture kind of view so that they see, no, it's not helpful to me, but I can see how the adverse would be to someone else. One of the things that the biggest turmoil in Elkin during my mayorship has been taking down of the bridge between Elkin and Jonesville. And that was something the town of Elkin had absolutely no control over. The bridge was going to be taken down by the North Carolina Department of Transportation because of its horrible condition. And buying that bridge from the DOT would only mean millions of dollars of rehabilitation and that sort of thing. So, yeah, that's the one that's raised the most angry comments and people going to leave town because we had torn down their bridge. Well, their bridge rated a 1 out of 100. Not a very good bridge, as bridges go.
I think one of the biggest priorities that municipalities here in North Carolina across the state have is growth. We are blessed to be in a state that has tremendous growth, with that there are challenges and opportunities, and we need to be able to manage that growth appropriately so that our state is the best in the nation.
Well, for my city, I think the biggest problem I see is infrastructure problems. We have old sewer lines in the city, and at some point we're going to have to take a major restoration of those lines, and the funding for that is really going to be a problem for us.
I think financial stability is the key ingredient. There's been a lot of change the past several years on the state level, and all we're asking from cities and towns is the ability to be able to know what we can count on and who we can count on as we try to grow. We make significant financial commitments to our citizens, and we need to make sure that everyone on multiple levels of government also stand by those commitments.
While we're looking future forward, we're thinking about regionalism, we're thinking about globalism, we're thinking about community and economic development, because community and economic development are one and the same, and they go hand in hand. I think that first, what we have to do is put people first, listen to the people, understand what they want, and then move future forward.
The first priority I would say in my community would have to be the embracement of technology, to start using technology to educate our citizens, to also find the commonality that not only are you the Washington City Council, You are the school board, you are the county commissioners, because the public does not perceive what your role is. They believe everything is interchangeable. So that's first to create a partnership with all three entities. After all, the school board creates our workforce, the county provides us essential services that we cannot provide. However, most people come to the city, and they are still coming to the city. So the first priority has to be, without a doubt, is unity in all the three boards.
One of the things that I'm most excited about for the town of Clayton is public information and how important it is to educate your public, your citizenry, but also your industry. And industry really doesn't have a true understanding of how municipal government works. They're used to dealing with similar entities, and when you start working with a government entity, it's a whole different ballgame. So I think it's going to be fantastic to get the word out, to tell our own story. It's more important for us to tell our own story than to have someone else to tell our story.
We have a lot of people moving to our city, just like many of the other cities around North Carolina. And it is incumbent upon us to make sure that we're protecting the quality of life for our citizens, that we make good land use decisions so that people will still want to come to our city 40 years from now, and they'll still consider it a premier community.
Well, I think we all share in the same objectives in continuing to maintain a prosperous community, continuing to grow with minimal impact to our citizens' financial pocket, and to recognize the infrastructure needs that we have, and be it roads and buildings and services that public safety service that continues to expand as your population expands, and to finding those revenues to provide those services that people expect.
Retention of local authority, I think that's very important, that you're elected to represent the community, and that you get to decide what the nature of your community is. I don't think that we want cookie cutter communities across North Carolina. They all have their own identity, and I think it's that identity should be able to be controlled by the local elected officials. The state seems to believe that they know best in some areas, not all of them, but in some, and have taken away that local authority. And I think it is really important, because people get confused about government. I'm talking about the citizen in the street, about who has the authority for this, who has the authority for that. But they do expect that their local government has the authority to make some decisions regarding the nature of their community.
Well, how they relate to other municipalities, I think we all have many of the same issues. They're maybe smaller, they may be larger, but we can learn from each other. And I think that's the beauty of being involved with a state association.
Well, City of Shelby is a rural area, 45 minutes west of Charlotte, so we're not a part of the metropolitan area, and so we haven't experienced the real estate upturn like Charlotte has. So we just had to raise taxes to make up for the assessment that we had to do, that where everybody's properties dropped significantly in value, but we still have to pay for the same things. So that's an ongoing challenge, and we're going to be fighting that for years until the economy completely turns around for the micropolitan areas and the rural areas.
What I have found is we have to let the public know that services are directly related to revenues. And if we don't have the revenues, regardless of where it's coming from, taxes, of the state, of the federal government, if we don't have those revenues, we're hurting.
Well, as we are seeing in our community, we are concerned about gentrification. That is, as the development comes around and property values are increasing, we're seeing some of our citizens are having difficulties keeping up with those property increases. We want to make sure, again, that as Durham grows, and I'm sure other communities are having this issue as well, that we're not actually pushing our own citizens out of our communities because they've now become unaffordable.
We've got to continue to move forward with economic development. Infrastructure yields economic development. which yields money for infrastructure, for more economic development. In Albemarle particularly, we have got these wonderful plans for our main street to revitalize downtown. And I believe if we can revitalize downtown and put some folks living on those second floor apartments, that will then increase foot traffic, if you will, and the need for services and restaurants and those types of things to revitalize downtown. It's just a big circle, and I hate to go back to the Lion King and the life circle there is, but we're so interdependent on economic development and infrastructure and jobs and economic development. It's interdependent upon each other.
Our biggest priorities, and I think it relates to every single municipality, every single town, is maintaining that local control. Being able to look at our situation and know that while we can operate and we can come together and have a single voice, we're still operating in our little silos in our own town. And to be able to come together and to say we need to maintain our voice, our story, and to be able to make those decisions because we know our story best.
Infrastructure, roads, water, sewer, and broadband. Those are commonalities across the state.
I would love for Elkin to be self-sufficient so that we could do our budget every year based on what we earn on taxes and what we earn on water, and not be scared or frightened every year about what the legislature was going to do to our budget. It's one thing to worry about sales and sales tax revenues. It's a totally different animal to worry about what a legislative move is going to make your tax bill to your citizens be. So yes, I would love for us to be making our way on our water revenues and our taxes.